This episode contains mature content. See the episode description for details.
I am a folklorist. Recently in my career, I've become intrigued by stories of large spectral dogs that appear to certain individuals, often serving as a portent of disaster. Such creatures have long been encountered in Great Britain. In Lancashire, it is called Shrieker. In Yorkshire, the Barcast. No matter the name, these apparitions often herald a kind of spiritual crisis, as though they are drawn exclusively to the lost and the damned.
Spoken Signal Audio Drama presents Black Dog Anthology by Robert Arnold. Episode 4, The Long Walk Home.
You folks looking for anything in particular today? Okay, well, feel free to browse around. Just give me a shout if I can help you. Sorry about that. It's bound to happen, though. Busy time of year.
Oh, it's quite all right, Mr. Hammond. I understand you have a business to run.
Gotta pay the bills somehow, you know.
It's an eclectic sort of shop.
Yeah, my friends tell me it's like my personality exploded all over the shelves. Head shop there, vinyl records there, and all kinds of souvenirs and novelties about Queenston and the Queenie legend.
And discovering that legend is exactly how I discovered you, your shop, and your story. Have you lived in Queenston all your life?
All my life. And I know just about everybody here. I mean, not everybody, of course, but you'd be hard-pressed to find someone whose cousin hasn't been my drinking buddy, or whose aunt didn't go to school with my parents, you know.
And you were living here when the Queenie sightings occurred?
Sure was.
What can you tell me about them?
It was wild, man. I guess that was, about 35 years ago now. I had no idea it would end up being so influential on me, you know? Steering the course of my life and all that.
Well, let's start from the beginning. What were you doing in those days?
Well, I wasn't long out of high school. I'd picked up a job as a mechanic in Mac Watley's garage, which was in town. I wasn't any good as a mechanic, but Mac was an easygoing guy, you know, so he taught me stuff and didn't give me too much grief. The only thing he was a real stickler about was showing up on time. That was the thing. He didn't care if I had to ask him 1,000 questions about brakes, carburetors, whatever. Questions were fine. But he wanted you in that shop and ready to go the second the day started. So whatever else was going on, I knew I had to get to work on the dot.
And that was when you encountered Queenie?
Uh-huh. Of course, I didn't realize it until later. You know about the Berry Hill Tunnel? Okay, I can give you the spiel. This is part of a walking tour I've started doing. So, the Berry Hill Tunnel was a railway tunnel on the western edge of town, built in 1896. It was abandoned in 1948 when the line got rerouted through Westport. The tunnel was a little over a quarter-mile long and cut right through Berry Hill. Now, the only thing past Berry Hill is a neighborhood people also call Berry Hill. Or, if you want to be less charitable, the Barrens. You drove into town from the north, right? So you saw a good bit of Queenston. You know this whole area is rural and pretty poor. Well, Berry Hill is even more so. It's mostly shacks and trailers out there, a couple of rundown apartment complexes. Good people, though. And some have lived out there for generations. Okay, so if you're driving from Berry Hill into Queenston proper, you take 68. For anyone walking, though, cutting through the Berry Hill Tunnel gave you a quicker way to get back and forth to town. So I was living out there, out in the Barrens, in an old trailer my parents had loaned me. I didn't have a car back then. Funny, right? A mechanic with no car. Anyway, the walk to Mac's garage, I remember, would have been about 45 minutes if I walked around Berry Hill. Took the long way, in other words. But if I cut through the tunnel, it was more like 25 minutes. So that's what I did, just about every morning and evening, and it was never a problem. Might run into another person or two passing through there, some kids on their way to school. Every now and then maybe a drunk sleeping it off in the cool air of the tunnel. But nothing bad. Well, this one morning, I was already a little behind schedule, so I was booking it to get to the garage on time. As I'm getting close to the tunnel, from out of the shadows of the entrance comes this little black dog. I say little, but I guess it was more medium-sized, like a blue tick or a pointer, something like that. But it was clearly agitated, and it was barking at me really aggressively, like it was just seconds from coming after me. I tried to walk around it, but it wouldn't let me. Stood right there at the tunnel entrance and just kept barking and barking. I tried to shoo it away. I tried throwing sticks, one for it to fetch, and one just kind of at it. I tried everything I could think of, but the damn thing wouldn't get out of the way, and it wouldn't let me anywhere near that tunnel. Well, I wasn't about to get rabies on account of this job, so I ended up taking the long way around, getting to the shop late and getting a real tongue lashing from old Mac. I tried to tell him what happened, but of course he thought I was just making it up. Then, on the way home, it happened again. At the other end of the tunnel this time. It was getting dark as I was walking back, so I couldn't see where exactly the dog came from. But sure enough, there it was, same dog, same aggressive attitude. It just would not allow me to pass through that tunnel. Well, by this time, I am tired, so I don't try to fight it. I just figure this is some angry stray that's living in the tunnel for a while. So again, I take the long way around to avoid it. Oh, hey, thanks for coming in. Thanks for nothing.
So this dog prevented you from passing through the Berry Hill Tunnel?
Yeah, which was weird, but, not that weird. The weird part came over the next few days, because it just kept happening. For 6 days in a row, in fact. As soon as I'd get close to either entrance of the tunnel from out of the dark, here comes this damn dog, barking and growling like crazy, not letting me pass through. After the second day, I just started getting up a little earlier and planning to take the path around the hill. I mean, there was no getting by this thing. It's like it had claimed the tunnel for itself.
Did you ever get a good look at it?
Oh, sure. Like I say, it was black, and it looked like a pointer or a blue tick. But more than that, it looked like a mutt. He was lean, tough looking, ragged. Just a dog. The only strange thing about it was the way it was acting. Anyway, the path around the hill splits off from the tunnel path, so I still went by there every day. And every day for those 6 days, here came that dog to keep me out.
What happened after 6 days?
After that, I had a day off, and I stayed home. Then when I walked to work the next day, I didn't see it. But I wasn't brave enough to venture into that tunnel. Not yet. I assumed the dog was probably still in there somewhere, and if I cut through, I might wake it up or surprise it, which wouldn't be good, I knew. I'd seen it for basically a week, so I told myself that once I hadn't seen it for a week, I could start using the tunnel again.
And then?
Well, 6 days after I last saw the dog was September 16th, which was the day we had a quake in a previously undiscovered fault line that runs below Queenston. A couple of buildings were damaged, and some trees and light poles fell over, and the old Berry Hill tunnel completely collapsed. The hill above it caved in on it. If you go out there and look at it now, it's just a pile of rubble. Happened at 7:25 in the morning, right about the time I would have been walking to work. But because I got up early, I was already on the other side of it, most of the way into town.
But you felt the quake.
Oh, yeah. Felt it, heard the rumbling, and actually saw a big tree uproot and fall over. But I was safe.
And since then?
Well, since then, with all the other stories that came out around the same time, and with all of it spreading on the internet now, people have gotten really interested. The dog got dubbed Queenie, and now people come here to visit just to see the town where it happened.
People?
Paranormal fans, like amateur investigators and stuff. They'd track me down to hear my story. Eventually, I realized there was maybe some money to be made from all these tourists, hence the shop.
Mr. Hammond, do you believe this dog, this Queenie, was sending you a message, trying to protect you from the collapse of the Berry Hill Tunnel?
I sure do.
But why appear to you over 6 days? Why not just warn you on the day?
Beats me. It doesn't make a ton of sense, I guess. But then again, it worked, didn't it? So maybe Queenie did exactly what she needed to do. For me, Maybe she needed the rest of that time to save some of the others.
You mean the other people who reported seeing a black dog acting strangely in the days leading up to the collapse?
Yeah, there were quite a few of them.
Maybe you can give me some of their names.
Well, a lot of them are gone now. Moved away from Queenston or died since. But 2 people come to mind who you may want to talk to. Melody Connors. She was a firefighter and one of the first to show up at the scene. And Ruthie Cole. She was just a school kid at the time. Both of them have pretty incredible stories.
They both encountered Queenie as well.
I believe they did, yeah. But in the end, that's for them to say.
Will you state your name, please?
Melody Connors.
And at the time of the Berry Hill Tunnel collapse, what were you doing?
Well, I was working at Carol's feed store in town, doing a little bit of everything. Cashier, helping manage the stockroom, whatever. But I was also a volunteer firefighter and rescue worker for the town of Queenston.
How old were you at the time?
Young. Carol's was my first real job. But Mr. Carroll was proud that I wanted to volunteer, so he supported me. Flexible hours during my certification and all that. Plus, he understood that if I got a call, I had to drop everything. Wore a radio on my belt all day, every day, just in case they needed me.
And how often did you get summoned to a fire or other emergency?
Not often, thankfully. Probably a handful of times a year. When I did, I'd run the few blocks over to the station and suit up.
And what kind of emergencies did you typically respond to?
Small fires, kitchens, space heaters, stuff like that. Most of the time we were able to catch them before they got out of control. You lose a house now and again, of course, but mostly we could get there in time. Oh, and lots of medical stuff, too. We were cross-trained on EMS.
Had you ever encountered anything comparable to the Berry Hill Tunnel collapse?
No. Not before or after.
What was that day like, September 16th?
Normal. Right up until the earthquake. I'd come in early to finish up doing some inventory, so I was already maybe an hour into my shift. I was in the stock room when the shelves started shaking. Not long after the call came in, I don't know who reported it, but we were told that the Berry Hill Tunnel had completely fallen in. So 4 of us gathered at the station and rode out there in the truck.
And what did you find?
It was true. Lots of dust in the air. The entrance to the tunnel was just a pile of rubble. My chief told us,
"Stay back. There's no telling how unstable it is."
We didn't have a reason to think anyone was inside. But of course we didn't know.
"I'm going to call this into town hall. If they want it cleared, it's going to take an engineer and a whole crew of excavators. Not much the 4 of us can do."
And then, something strange happened. This dog, this little runt of a dog, a stray it looked like, comes running up, barking at this pile of rubble. So of course we wondered if it had scented someone or something under there.
Dogs are frequently utilized in rescue operations, I understand.
Yeah, trained ones. This was just some mutt from the neighborhood. Still, it was so agitated you had to wonder. And then, not even a minute later, here came a second dog. Then a third. They clustered around this one particular spot and just stood there, barking their heads off.
What did you do?
I said to my chief, "I think there must be someone down there."
"I told you, it's not safe."
Then here came another dog, and another. It was crazy. I'm sure some were strays, but some had collars. Like word had spread through town and they'd all decided to show up there. They were barking at the same spot, some of them pawing at the rocks. I told my chief, "We gotta see. We gotta at least try to see."
"All right, but if I get the first hint of a rock slide or anything else, we are out of here."
So we started excavating. We had a shovel in the truck, which helped, but most of us just used our hands. We tried calling out, seeing if anybody would respond.
"Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Can anyone hear me?
Hello?
Hello?"
All this time, this pack of dogs was just going nuts, just barking up a storm. And every time I looked up, it was like 1 or 2 more had joined in. Excavation is risky. Gravity's your enemy. If you don't work your way through the debris correctly in the right order, things can shift, and you can end up crushing the person you're trying to save, or yourself. Which is why the chief wanted to bring in an engineer, but we didn't have time to wait.
"Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Is anyone there?
Is anybody in there?
Can anyone hear me? Hello?
Hello? We worked for a good half hour, clearing a path through the part of the rubble that the dogs were watching. I had just started to give up hope when... Here. Guys, here. I swear I saw something move. So we worked on clearing out that one spot. And then, all of a sudden... Here comes this black dog, struggling its way out of the rubble. It was a little panicked, but it didn't seem hurt. We were all too surprised to try to catch it. It pulled itself out of the rocks and just took off. And then the others all scattered too, like they had done their jobs, and were ready to head home.
Did you get a good look at the dog that was trapped inside the tunnel?
No. It was covered in dust, but I could see that it was black and kind of medium-sized. Right then, though, I was distracted by what I saw in the space it had crawled out of. Chief, look here.
What did you see?
It was a hand. A kid's hand. Caught there in the rubble. It wasn't moving.
All right. Come on. Let's get in there.
We got back to work. Took us another hour to get the body out. It was that boy, the Beecher boy. The only person we lost that day. He'd been caught in the tunnel on his way to school. Killed in the collapse.
And there was nothing to be done?
No. He was already dead by the time we found him. probably by the time we showed up on the scene. Poor kid.
But the dog seemed to want him found anyway?
Yeah, well, the reasonable explanation is that the pack was sensing the dog that was trapped in there with him.
And the unreasonable explanation?
He still deserved to be found, didn't he? Found and brought out of there in one piece as quick as possible. That's what those dogs helped us do. So at least his folks knew right away. At least they didn't have to wonder. They had his body and they could bury him properly.
How did this experience affect your enthusiasm for fire and rescue?
At first, I wanted to quit. I thought, I can't go through something like that again. It was just too awful. But after a few days, I realized what I experienced was nothing compared to what that kid had experienced, or his family. And I decided that what I went through had helped them, given them closure. It was like I could take a little bit of their pain onto me instead. And I was happy to do that. So I went back. Stuck with it another 12 years or so, in fact, until I hurt my knee. Now I just cheer those guys on from the sidelines.
Miss Connors, do you believe that you had an encounter with the supernatural black dog that townspeople have named Queenie?
Jesus. I don't know. One part of me hopes that I did. Another part of me would rather think it was just one of those weird things, that the universe is random, and so of course random stuff is going to happen. But in the end, I'm like everybody else. Because I really just don't know.
Will you state your name for the recording?
My name is Ruthie Cole.
And what do you do here in Queenston, Miss Cole?
I'm an early childhood educator.
And at the time of the Berry Hill Tunnel collapse, you were?
In school myself. I was a 7th grader at Queenston Middle.
Were you living in the Berry Hill neighborhood at the time?
You mean the Barrens? Yeah, we were. At that point, it was just my dad and me. We'd lost Mom the year before, which was really hard, you know, especially for a kid. I don't think I'd finished grieving or had really even processed what happened. I was having trouble sleeping, lots of nightmares.
What kind of student would you say you were?
Average. Totally average. I tried. I wasn't one of the slacker kids, but I always felt like the stuff that came easily to smart kids, I really had to work at. So school was a frustrating experience for me.
I take it you walked to Queenston Middle each day?
Yeah. Dad worked an early shift, so he was already gone in the morning when I woke up. Other kids might have taken advantage of that to skip, sleep in, whatever. But not me. I got up every morning, got myself dressed, poured my own cereal, and made it to school on time. I was never late, unless I was genuinely sick. Like I said, I tried.
And to get to school, you cut through the abandoned Berry Hill Railway Tunnel.
Right. It was just what we did, you know? It was the quickest way. I never questioned it. Never felt scared of it either. Except maybe now and then when I'd run into some older kid in there. It wasn't an especially long tunnel, so it didn't take much time to pass through. Just a few minutes. On rainy days, it was a nice little bit of shelter. As far as I know, nothing really bad ever happened in there. On that morning, September 16th, it was the same. I was up and headed to school. I just started 7th grade and I was anxious about it. Already I was having trouble keeping up and it felt like the teacher maybe didn't like me too much. So I was trying to be a little extra diligent about class participation, homework, that kind of stuff. It was weighing on me. I wanted to do well. I'm sure that's what I was thinking about when I got to the tunnel that morning. right before I went in. I happened to look over to the side, near some of the trees that lined the path, and I saw that there was this adorable little black dog. It looked like a puppy. Big paws, big ears. It was sitting there on the side of the path, not in my way or anything, just sort of watching me.
What did you do?
Well, naturally, I stopped. Tried talking to it. Said, "What a pretty dog, what a good puppy," that kind of thing. And then I heard a voice close by.
"You can pet her if you want."
It made me jump. I hadn't seen or heard anybody else on the path that morning, but all of a sudden, right there next to me was this other kid.
"I said you can pet her if you want."
Did you recognize this boy?
Kind of. I'd seen him at school a few times. He was older than me, which would have made him an 8th grader. I didn't know his name. Anyway, he seemed friendly enough, and the puppy was just so darn cute. So I gave it a shot. Approached the dog slowly, with my hand out, and patted it on the head. It's hard to explain, but it wasn't like petting a normal dog. It felt a little crackle of energy or something. Like a static charge. Not unpleasant, exactly. Just surprising.
"You headed to school?"
I told him I was.
"Want us to walk with you?"
"Is that your dog?" I asked him.
"Nah. But she'll walk with us, if you let her."
So I said okay, and we started off into the tunnel. Even after just meeting him, I could tell he was an odd kid. He seemed, preoccupied, distracted, and sad too, I thought. But still, he was nice to me.
"You in Miss Bates' class? I heard she hides cigarettes in her desk. Donnie Williams stole one, smoked it once, and made him throw up."
And sure enough, the dog walked with us. Just a little bit ahead of us, in fact. Up there, trotting along. It was odd. And again, it's hard to explain, but I noticed that I could see it really well. I mean, here was this dark, black dog in the middle of a dark tunnel. But it was always really clear to me where it was. Like it seemed weirdly visible. I asked the boy what his name was.
"Charlie."
I told him I'd seen him at school, and he nodded. Then he said,
"I don't think I'm gonna go back there."
"Back where?" I asked him. "To school? You have to go to school."
"I wouldn't mind it, going back. But I don't think I will."
I wasn't sure what to say to that. So I told him I didn't really want to go to school either, that I wasn't all that smart.
"Sure you are. You're smart. You just learn things different from other people."
"What do you mean?" I asked him. But he just shrugged. It seemed like a strange thing to say to someone you've just met. But sure enough, a few years later, I found out he was right. Got diagnosed with a couple of learning disabilities, dyslexia and dyspraxia.
"Hey, what's the best thing that's ever happened to you?"
"What are you talking about?" I asked.
What's the best thing that's happened in your life so far?
I told him I'd have to think about it.
For me, it was this day we went fishing. My brother and me. He's older, and really good at it. And he was making fun of me, like, "You're never gonna catch anything with that lure," stuff like that. But I did. Ended up catching this huge bass, like as long as your arm. It fought me, But my brother, he was there to help me reel it in. We cooked it up that night and fed it to the whole family. That was really great. That was a great day.
It was sweet. And it made me think of something that had happened to me. I told him I remembered this time my mom and dad drove me to a farm outside of town. We picked blackberries. It was just an hour or two, I think, but it felt like such a big day to me. It was beautiful out, sunny but cool, and we walked through these rows and rows of blackberry bushes, looking for the best ones. I remember my dad laughing at how stained my hands were. And I remember my mom, tall and beautiful, in this big sunbonnet, with a huge smile on her face. I realized that that's how I'd been picturing her in my mind ever since, whenever I thought of her. My favorite image of her came from that day. So, that's what I was talking about when we came out of the tunnel back into the sunshine. And I looked over, and he was gone. The dog, too. I called out, "Charlie? Hey, Charlie?" I went back a few feet into the tunnel, but neither of them was anywhere to be seen.
What did you do then?
Well, I waited around for a minute to see if they'd show back up. But eventually I figured he was messing with me, so I went on to school. I didn't even realize anything was wrong until I got to class. Everybody was freaking out. My homeroom teacher sent me directly to the office. My dad was already there. He'd been crying, which I hardly ever saw him do. He hugged me so hard. Said he thought he'd lost me too.
So that's how you learned about the Berry Hill tunnel collapse.
Yeah.
And when it happened, you would have been...
inside of it. I mean, that's how the timing works out. There's no possible way I could have passed through that tunnel that morning, safe and unaware. But I did.
How do you explain it?
Charlie told me that he and the dog would walk me to school. So, I think that's what they did. Walked me through, safely. Got me over to the other side.
And you believe this boy you encountered was Charles Beecher, the child who died in the tunnel collapse?
I'm sure of it. His picture was in the paper the next day. There was no mistaking it.
You're certain all this happened on the morning of September 16th?
Positive. You don't forget a day like that.
Miss Cole, let me ask you, this encounter with Charles Beecher, do you believe it took place before his death or after?
I don't know. If I'm being honest, I think it was probably somewhere in between. Which I really like, you know? He walked me to school, made sure I got there safe. And I like to think that maybe I was able to do the same for him, to walk him home or wherever it was he was going. Give him someone to talk to along the way.
And what about the dog?
They call her Queenie now.
Your description doesn't match the others I've heard.
No. What I saw was a puppy. Sweet, unthreatening. So I think she appeared however she needed to.
Did this experience have any long-term effect on you?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, we'd just lost my mom. So it was a relief to think that maybe she'd had someone walking with her too. You know? When she went, holding her hand, talking to her along the way. That's how I think about it now. And I wonder, when it's my time, if I'll see Charlie again. That would be nice. Or maybe it will be someone else. It doesn't really matter. Either way, I'm glad to know that I won't have to walk alone.
Postscript to Queeniston interviews and some reflections on the legend of Queenie. We humans are storytellers. In our search for coherent stories, we often resort to the supernatural. From unseen gods controlling the weather to cards that predict our fortunes, we employ things we don't understand to explain things we don't understand, which is, of course, illogical. But perhaps it's that very resistance to logic that makes belief so indelible.
Good morning, and welcome to... Oh, hey, it's you! You came back, huh?
I'm just on my way out of town, but I realized I neglected to purchase a memento for my trip.
Well, hey, if it's mementos you want, you're in the right place. Come on in. Take a look over here. You don't strike me as a t-shirt guy, but I've got some keychains and coffee mugs you might like. Oh, and check this out. This is really cool.
Episode 4 of Black Dog Anthology was written by Robert Arnold and featured the voices of Rodney Rastall as the Folklorist, Kendall Karcher as Hammond, Emily Draffen as Melody, Renee Davis Brame as Ruthie, Chris Jowers as the Chief, and Perry Hall as Charlie. Principal dialogue recorded by Mike Wilson at Archer Recording Studio in Memphis, Tennessee. Music by Eric Jorgensen. Sound effects by Robert Arnold, with additional sounds from soundstripe.com and freesound.org. Artwork by Derrick Dent. Special thanks to Chris Jowers. Assistant directed by Karen Strawn. Produced and directed by Robert Arnold. This is your announcer, Erin Calaway. To learn more about Spoken Signal audio drama, hear our other productions, and get in touch, visit us at spokensignal.com.